Good morning, everybody. This is Grant. It's a beautiful morning, and we're getting ready to rock and roll. I'm about to share with you one of my favorite delegation tools that we use to try to get better at managing in a remote world. And I don't know if it's just me being ADHD or if it's just challenging today, but we've got a tool that we use that we make available, and I'm going to show it to you today. We're going to do that. Of course, we've got other news. We're talking about dragon tears. And what are dragon tears? Bamboo clouds in the art world. But before any of that, you know what time it is. It's time for a morning cup of gratitude. What are you grateful for this morning? What's getting you pumped? What's getting you excited? Why are you out and about? Why do you even get out of bed today? Might be your kids, might be your vision. What are you grateful for this morning? I'm telling you, what I am grateful for this morning is routine. I'm telling you, I have a great morning routine. The lovely Marissa just took off in the car at 4 a.m. We both got up at 3:15. We sent her off in the car. She's doing a hike. You're going to see her follow along at Spark Explorer for her awesome hike. And I regret not being able to go. I'm not grateful that I can't go and spend time with her and drive with her. I love being in the car with my wife. She's heading up to go hiking. But I'm grateful that while she's doing that, I've got a solid routine. Getting to the gym. I did my hot and cold exposure at the gym. I did my sauna exposure at the gym. And, sometimes it's a little bit of, and we talk about I'm going to be talking about my experiments of microdosing, and we'll talk about what that looks like in our experiments there in the Discord only, because that's kind of a private thing on how we're experimenting with how that helps the routine and spirituality and focus in an ADHD world. That's what I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for my routine. I'm grateful for my experiments, and I'm grateful for the Discord community where we're up. I think we're up 15%. On our Cardano holdings, we're up, I think it was 48% last night, thanks to Sammer's tip about Shiba Inu, and that's going to totally pull back. It's totally a hype pump meme. But I'm grateful for that community because we're talking about stuff that's making us money and helping us have time freedom. So that's what I'm excited for. And of course, I'm grateful for you being here to share other news with us this morning. Let's talk about bamboo clouds. So Japanese artist, I'm going to butcher this name. Japanese artist Tanabe Chikunsai, totally butchers name. Please forgive me, sir. The fourth. Tanabe Chikunsai, the fourth, threads bamboo strips. I don't know if you've ever seen bamboo can come big or it can come small. But once they pull it out, they can take the bamboo and whack it down. It flattens, and they can strip it down, and they get these strips of bamboo. And sometimes you've seen fencing with strips of bamboo. But this family, Tanabe Chikunsai the fourth, is an artist who basically weaves the strips of bamboo together into huge monumental pieces of artwork. And I'm going to drop the link in the comments right now so you can visualize the mind-bending work this person does. Here, let me put it right here in the comments. The mind-bending work this person does with bamboo. You might have even seen this come up in feeds or come up at Patreon. If you look at the thumbnail now, look at the thumbnail in the comments. That's what they call bamboo clouds. It's this beautiful piece of artwork. And get this, they're the only family known in the world to weave bamboo like this. Now, there's been some understudies and some apprentices of late that are learning the trade. But long story short, Tanabe Chikunsai's father, grandfather, and great-grandfather all perfected this art over generations. Their last name, in fact, Chikunsai, and I'm totally saying this wrong. You can see his name right there in the thumbnail. The last name actually translates to bamboo cloud. And Marissa and I were even talking, should I change my last name to Sparks, Grant Sparks, and start a generation of Grant Sparks, of last name Sparks? I'm thinking about it as just a life experiment, officially, legally changing my name to Grant Sparks. Well, this was one of those artistic confirmations that 4 or 5 generations ago, Tanabe Chikunsai the first decided to name his last name over this work he was doing with bamboo cloud and how he was weaving it. They started with small baskets and pods and different things like that. And now they've gone on to huge works. And right now they're installing, and it's a huge installation. Please click that link because there's this huge installation where it's site specific and he weaves this stuff in creative patterns. You can see it's kind of hollow and translucent the way he does it. But I want to read this real quick. You can see their works in a show that's coming up at the Bauer Foundation in Geneva. But I love this quote. I love this quote. The appearance of my grandfather weaving a basket, just a basket, was a beautiful and elegant art. And then he said, that taught me how to feel art. I felt art growing up. How cool would it be if there was a trade or a meditative practice or an art or a craft that you watched a generation above you do and felt, wow, this is art. Art is not just meant to be looked at. It's not just meant to be traded as an NFT, though you know I'm intrigued with NFTs. It's meant to be felt. Do you feel the art? Can you feel that? So check out the link. I've already dropped the link right there. This is Bamboo Cloud, Chikunsai, and that name lives on. And I'd like to hear from you if you think I should get in on the experiment of changing my last name to Grant Sparks. See what it does. And it would probably be a marketing experiment more than anything of would people respond more to me if my name was officially actually Grant Sparks. And I think of Robin Sparkles. If Marissa's watching out there, she knows what I'm talking about. Robin Sparkles, How I Met Your Mother. But Grant Sparks, it's integrated for me. It's here, it's everywhere, it's here. And it's just an integrated thing like it is for artists, Japanese artists, Tanabe Chikunsai, Tanabe Bamboo Cloud. Let's talk about Dragon Tears. This is just a small, friendly reminder. We've already covered this a little bit last week, but it's going on right now, starting last evening before midnight, and tonight and Friday night and Saturday night, you can see the Draconid meteor shower. And the thing that's significant about this is it's the meteor shower we go through that's more pronounced before midnight than after midnight. It's going to be going on, actually, forgive me, through Sunday the 10th. It'll be going on. But remember, I think we have a waxing moon tonight or tomorrow night, but that moon sets just before sunset. So the moon sets just before sunset. It's a waxing crescent moon. So the light should be fine for you to go out sometime before midnight when it's actually dark. Between when it's actually dark and midnight, you could probably go out and see beautiful Draconid meteor showers. Now, here's something that was in one of the almanacs. It said this shower produced awesome meteor displays in 1933 and in 1946 with thousands of meteors per hour seen in those years. And European observers saw over 600 meteors per hour in 2011. So it should be a beautiful display. You should be able to check that out. Go in there, and as you heard me talk about once, you've heard me talk about it a million times. Oh man, a Facebook user jumps in. Who is this? Let me see who this is. Someone jumps in and says, Grant Sparks is way easier to pronounce. It's Jessica. Jessica says Grant Sparks would be way easier to pronounce. She votes that I actually change my name as one of our experiments to Grant Sparks. Marissa, I got one vote. And I would keep my native name. We're proud of our native name, but we don't have kids. And it's one of those things that, like, maybe if I could name myself Grant Sparks and then have kids, I could name them Sparks, and the lineage could go on like artist Tanabe Chikunsai. Thank you, Jessica. Duly noted, Jessica, that is her vote. So we'll have to see. Good morning, Dan Sampson stopped by. Good morning, Dan. I accidentally called Dan yesterday because I had to talk to the people he sold his business to, and I dialed Dan, and then I thought, you know what? I should hang out with Dan. Connie's laughing. Connie Rollins dropped by. Connie, should I change? Oh, Jessica says this. Oh, here we go. Jessica says this. Marissa Sparks sounds really good too. It does. But I think if Marissa were to actually pick her last name, she'd probably pick something like Marissa Explore or Marissa Hikes or Marissa Drives to Hiking. because that's her deal. I appreciate that. That's super fun. So yes, if you're watching or you bop in at any point, we would love to know your opinion. Should I officially change my last name to Grant Sparks as a marketing experiment, as a grant experiment, and just see over the months and years if that's something we should do? So thank you, Jessica, for popping in on that. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your emoji, Connie, and your input. Connie says, yeah, sure. Why not? Grant Sparks has a nice ring to it. Yeah, man. I don't know why that tickles me so much that you guys are on board, but it's encouraging. If you guys are on board, I just floated the idea last week and I was like, you know what? Like, this is just who we are anyway, man. And we're defining ourselves. So I appreciate that, Connie, a lot for you jumping in. So thank you guys very much. So Dragon Tears, the Draconid Meteor shower. That's our last piece of other news. Let's talk about the ADHD delegation tool. You're not delegating ADHD, because if you could delegate ADHD, that would be glorious. But it is a superpower when you can wield it. So it's a tool for those who think they might have ADD, ADHD, or just have a challenge delegating to people. This is a tool we use and love to use. And I'm reminded of it because we're turning a quarter. We're moving from Q3 to Q4, and that's when we do a realignment on these things. So let's actually talk about ADHD Business Owner Delegation Tool. Let's do this thing. Yeah, man. As you guys jump in on the show later today, as I get watchers and viewers throughout the day or direct message me, I'd love to know your input if I should change my last name to Grant Sparks. That's too funny. So here's this tool. Whether or not because I am Mr. all over the place, Mr. ADHD, or just because hashtag small business life and it's difficult, getting people to act on your vision, your systems, the picture in your mind, how you would do it. Even though I'm ADD and ADHD, I deliver with excellence. When our company was small, under 100 people, I could personally deliver everything all the time. We had to hire people though. And as you hire people, even the kindest, gentlest, best people, people that are better than you, for some reason, there seems to always be a fall through. Now, this could be a misperception too. In A-type land, this is not ADD land, and being an A-type person, you know when you give yourself grace and cut yourself some slack, and then when you delegate it, you may not necessarily cut other people that same slack. So we have to be empathetic. But regardless, it always seems like it's a challenge to get other people to enact your vision. Now, if I'm not doing it and if I'm not modeling it all the time, even after I have hired people, I found that if I'm not doing it also and modeling it all the time, they watch me and they think, okay, well, I can slack off on this thing too. And not out of malicious or laziness at all. Not out of, it could be, but usually not. Sometimes it's just they don't know how to self-prioritize. They may have the best intentions in the world. They may be an extraordinary hire, but they may not have been empowered with how you want them to self-prioritize. And let's face it, as a small business owner, before you do your hiring, you're wearing 1,000 hats. You cut yourself some slack, you let some plates drop, and you still prioritize. And so the challenge isn't just taking a chunk of your responsibilities and giving it to someone. The challenge is doing that, but also giving them the power to prioritize, empowering them to prioritize. So there may be other factors, but I would say this is the primary. There are several other challenges to the small business owner, but I am telling you, I think this is the first and primary challenge. Do we struggle to sell? Yeah, you always need to be selling. ABS, always be selling. ABC, always be closing. Always be marketing. But if you cannot successfully delegate, whether it's ADHD, whether it's a remote world, you have got to solve this. If you cannot do this, you will be way down and you won't have the exit strategies you need to live a life of freedom or to go on to making your global impact. You are always going to be way down. Now, we know this is the primary challenge. I personally believe, and we discussed this we used to discuss this in Goals and Gratitude. We're now over at the Discord. There's a free Discord group where these conversations are happening, and we're growing that group slowly of business owners committed to making an impact with their business and their lives. But we have agreed that marketing is the second biggest challenge. But you can't get to the marketing if you can't scale. You can't get to the marketing and sales if you can't successfully delegate. And what's worse about this being like the top challenge for small business owners is that now that we've gone to the post-pandemic or pandemic delegated world, remote work is very challenging. I am realizing how many failings I had to truly delegate. I'm realizing how much I was a charisma-based delegator. And that's not good. I can inspire people like, yeah, and they can rally for like 3 or 4 days of the week. And then by Thursday or Friday or Monday the next week, they're just toast and they still aren't bringing the oomph that I need. So remote work is good. And that remote work is challenging us to ask ourselves, do we really know how to successfully delegate? And without the office feedback, I don't know about you guys, but I loved working in an office with other people because I could listen and I could hear, and I could be working, and then my amygdala, my reticular activating cortex would catch when an employee would say something off, or when they would dictate an email, and I'd say, hey, and we'd have a micro training. But there's failings there as well. There's challenges there as well. And so without the office work, we're realizing, does the system sufficiently delegate? Do you have the right tools in place and the right systems in place? And if the employee even tries to self-align, they may pull out their job description, read over their job description, and get hung up because suddenly their job description is just a bunch of bullet points. And when they look at this bulleted list, you might even put that bullet list in a numbered list. Granted, it's not a bulleted list, it's a numbered list. They should know the priority. But it's not visually stimulating. Most people today cannot read a single 8.5 by 11 job description, even if it's a numbered list, and get the energy, get the stimulation from that triggers how they prioritize here. Writing on paper needs to, your system needs to trigger an emotional, visceral response for them to take on their job or the thing you've delegated to them with oomph. If they're just moving from task to task, they're not bringing that extra oomph you need. And so we are always looking for ways that, ADHD or being scattered or being entrepreneurial, whatever you want to call it, can be our greatest weakness because we're all over the place and we're expecting everything. But here's where it's a strength. When we zero in on the task we're doing, whether it's sales or marketing or actually fulfillment, we can bring this oomph, this charisma, and you don't have to be extroverted like me to bring that charisma. When Marissa goes hiking, little Miss Introvert, when she goes hiking, she brings this extra oomph because she's passionate about it. And if you bring an assistant along who might just be there because they want the Instagram story, they might not bring the same fulfilling action, fulfilling emotion. And when you have an employee who's even trying to self-prioritize and they go, okay, I'm trying to do the best I can. I'm a remote worker. I know my boss, my self-employed, my employer, you want more out of me, whether it's my organization. And I go, okay, I just don't know what to do next, or I just feel overwhelmed. So they pull out some of the few tools you've given them. And it's often a job description with a bullet list, and it's just not stimulating enough to get them to go, yes, I know what to do. So this has been a challenge, and we've come up with many tools. And I want to throw grace to these employees because as sole proprietors, as small business owners, as entrepreneurs, we've worked long and hard to build the businesses we have, but we need to hand them off or we're going to be stagnated, whether that's to work on other things within this business, whether that's to work on other businesses, whether it's to build out and improve the business or focus on sales. You have an imperative. If your vision matters, if your family matters, if your goals or your religion, if anything matters to you and you're an entrepreneur, you have to delegate this successfully. And Root just answers it like this, my man. He just says, nope, no remote work for my employees. And he and I were talking a little bit about these challenges, and he's just solving that right now by saying, no remote work for my employees. Now, he has 1099 contractors who might do like a hybrid, but for his employees that he's been hiring, they come in the office and he trains them. And I love that. And I wish we had that. But I also want the intellectual challenge of overcoming this. I don't want to do this because I'm hamstrung. I want to succeed at this. So I do want to throw grace to remote teams or employees that might be struggling with this because of this one fact. The spaceship is off course 99% of the time on the way to the moon. Think about that. We can time the landing within seconds. We can time the location of that landing within meters, half a meter. but it's still off course 99% of the time. Now, there's a lot of principles to unpack there, but the one principle is if we can come up with a tool that can visually recapture the focus of your employee, that's a visual tool, that's stimulating and useful, then we can still time and stick a landing with our clients and our customers, even though the employees might still be wavering 80 or 90% of the day. So one of the tools we use, and I'm about to share it, I'm going to bring it up on the screen here. One of the tools we use is called the priority pyramid. And whether or not, like Root, you have these employees in your office, or whether or not they're remote, we were using this long before we were a remote company. But we're revisiting it. It's that the pivot of the quarter, that's when we do our one-on-ones, that's when we do our realignments with all of our employees and our performance reviews and stuff like that. We use this tool, the priority pyramid, trademarked, right here. And then if you're a patron on our Patreon, and there'll be links in the comments below, if you just want to download this and swipe our download, all of our patron members who are members of our Patreon account, they just get this as a download for them to fill out, use, and send or email their employees. So they can just do it and use it there. It'll be available on State of the Spark if you just want to purchase it, but you can create your own basically priority pyramid. So let's actually take a look at that real quick. So this is the priority pyramid. Check that out. And I'm going to do a close-up here in just a quick second. I'm going to do this close-up in just a second. But right now, this is how we use at Spark Sites and our partners. This is how we articulate the priorities of how an employee can self-delegate. And remember some of the goals of this document. Some of the goals are this. For the employee to know how to self-prioritize, it's got to happen. Employees need to know, because you might do your daily huddles. We do a daily huddle, and we do it longer than we should. Huddles should only last about 10 or 15 minutes. You don't want to waste anyone's time. And if you got 4 people there and you spent 15 minutes, you've wasted an hour of productivity that day. Wasted. You've aligned. Our team actually goes much longer than that. And I try to, and I don't intend to, I always intend to do a short huddle and flush out kind of where everything's at. And those huddles are huge, and we can talk about huddles in another video. But the rest of the day they spend alone, and they need to know what to do. This is for the job role called client success. This job role is client success, and you can read this right here, and I'll zoom in a second. But right now you can tell that comms, communications, are the first priority of this client. So even if the world is falling apart, as long as they are doing all of the comms, and the comms are done in a timely manner, and they're communicating to clients, then they're doing their job, and I won't hold them accountable for too much else as long as they're doing that. So this is a guiding tool. I'll zoom in on the nuances in a second, but the first goal is that they can self-prioritize for the remaining hours of the day and week. And they know, what if I'm lost, what is my top goal? I'll go into some of these elements. The second goal is this. It's for you, Mr. or Mrs. ADHD entrepreneur, to be able to visually refer to your priority pyramid. Again, compare this to a job description. If an employee feels lost, compare this to a job description where they're completely lost. And they're like, oh my God. And they read this black and white text on paper. The font's all the same. This visually does a few things. So it helps you refer visually to the priority pyramid. And you can always ask, hey, what are you working on, and why or why not? Why is or why isn't it on your priority pyramid? The third thing it does is it's something for you to refer to during your one-on-ones. I hope you're doing your bi-weekly, monthly, and quarterly one-on-ones with your employees. In a remote world and in a non-remote world, I hope you're doing your one-on-ones with your employees. And the last thing, to have something to measure against when you do your performance reviews. Listen, I'm not big on firing people at all. I don't like it, but you need to. We've had employees in the past that we probably kept on for a year longer than we should have. And that's a year that I feel like I held all of my goals back because I was hoping this employee would turn around. And many times when I would get to the point where I'd say, we just got to part ways, I didn't want it to be this ugly firing. If I had been doing my job, and at each of our check-ins every 2 weeks and every month, I could always refer back to the priority pyramid and say, hey, is this a fit for you right now? Is this too stressful for you? This is what the job is. Is the job a fit? Do you need to be somewhere else in our organization? Do we need to talk about bringing in a replacement and letting you move back into the work world? But if you're having this conversation with your employees and in your delegated team every other week, at least, if not monthly, if not quarterly. This helps you cycle people that aren't fitting the role much quicker with much less emotion. Hey, what's going on here? I noticed that you haven't been doing, I don't know, production delegation. What's going on with that? Well, it stresses me out too much. Here we go. And this is from the illustrious Patrick Thurman. Boom. Be slow to hire and quick to fire. Yes. And it's easier said than done, especially if you come from a ministry background and you just believe in people. And as a life coach, I like to believe I can turn any employee around. Be slow to hire and quick to fire. Yes, absolutely. But how? And this is one of the tools that we use to make it a very quick fit of, hey, I notice you're not doing this. Is it because it's not a fit? Is it because you don't like the work? Does it not match your temperament? Do you just not want to do it? Is it too intimidating? Do we need to train? And if you're checking back in 2 weeks and they still haven't done it, you're shortening that cycle down to a month instead of a whole year. So those are the goals. The employees know how to self-prioritize. You, Mr. and Mr. is ADHD, asking yourself as a leader, wait, why am I paying this person? Oh, they're doing this. And then you can check in with them during your one-on-ones, and then you can realign with them for their performance review and go, is this a fit? It's a conversation tool. So here's how you use it really quick. I've just got some quick points. And again, if you're just popping in, patron members will be able to, if you're a paid patron member, you'll be able to download a blank version of this and fill this out for yourself, or type it out and fill it out and send it to your employees. You'll be able to download our own. I'm just going to put in our own so you can like reflect on how we've set up Spark Sites and how we use Spark Sites. Boom. Patrick Thurman says, great stuff today. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you, man. And if you just want to talk about this, if you have questions that I don't answer on today's show, jump over to the free Discord and just ask your questions under the section for small business chat. We have a channel for small business chat with business owners of just working some of this stuff out. So feel free to jump over there and check it out. So here's how you use this thing. Let me actually zoom in real quick so you can actually get the close-up. So boom, here's the close-up. And everyone's priority pyramid will have this little red section. They'll have a main priority, which takes up about 80%, and it's the firm foundation of their job. They begin here. This says begin, and up here it says the goal is to get through every single day from your primary role to your tertiary goal. The tertiary goal, if you can get to the tertiary goal, the reason it's at the top is pyramids used to have a golden cap. They need a firm foundation. This is the firm foundation. I'll tell you what this is in a second. This is a firm foundation. This is like, okay, this gets us ahead. This keeps us in business. This gets us ahead. This grows the company. The 80-20 rule. You can see the 80-20 rule going on here. So number one, you set the firm foundation as the top goal that everyone is achieving together. This section in red, this red actually correlates to the Spark red right here, and Spark, Ignite, Explode, Radiate. And the explode, the red, as you can see even from the goal, the red there, Spark is yellow, Spark is green, Ignite is yellow, and red is explode significance. This goal right here falls under the brand promises of the goal poster. And I'll do a whole other video on another tool we use, which is basically our vision summary poster. And you can download it. We'll send it to the patron members for free. Or the patron members could download it, print it off themselves. You'll be able to purchase it on the website, but also you can just fill yours out. But the red correlates to another section on that poster. And it's basically the brand promise. And so this is what we call kind of the queen bee role. Everyone's priority pyramid will have the same red section. And if you can imagine stacking these next to each other, this right here is the client success person, but a salesperson would actually have the same red foundation. This is what aligns the company. And in our case, we have a role in our business called the queen bee role. This comes from Michael Michalowicz's book, Clockwork. It's not on my shelf right now. It's in my bag because I'm reading it. And the queen bee role is the secret sauce of the entire company. And everyone's role, ultimately, their foundation is to empower the queen bee role to succeed. That's it. And it articulates it. So you'll actually say it outright. And we don't just say queen bee role. Our queen bee role is client success, client touches, making sure clients are in the know and feel empowered. And that being the case, everyone's job is that the salespeople would have the same goal to support the queen bee role of client success. Everyone would have that. The bookkeeper would have that. The CEO has that. So that's the same for everyone. And again, I want to make it because you can stack priority pyramids in a row and see that, wow, there's overlap in all of these jobs. We call it cross training, but they're really supporting the corporate brand promise, if you will. So then you add their main function, and their main function should take up about 80%. This is the 80-20 rule. The brand, their primary job function should take up 80%, and then you should add some details of what that is. Inflow and outflow, which is email in this particular job's case. Inflow and outflow. I can't even see that on my screen. But these will be some of the main objectives of that person's day. And if their day happens to be consumed because it's, in this case, a heavy comms day, our other team partner, Amber, she might have a priority pyramid that says production and content support. And so if her whole day just gets hijacked with content support and the secondary and the tertiary job roles kind of get pushed off a few days, that's tolerable. We'll deal with the fallout of that as long as they're fulfilling their primary job. And then, of course, their secondary and tertiary might be different volumes. You might have a very small secondary and a very large tertiary, depending on the job role, because it's 80-20 rule. The primary job makes up 80% of a person's focus, 80% of a person's energy across the averages. And then you split the secondary and tertiary into 20% of the rest of their focus. Now, I do want to say this. You probably shouldn't have a job role with more than 3 priorities. In all honesty, they should only have 2. So I really recommend you try to keep this down to 2 priorities, but if you need to add a third because it gets you ahead, throw it in there by all means. So this is what I would say. Print a copy of it. Patron members will get a copy of it. They can download it. Determine your employees' responsibilities. Set the same red foundation for all of them. Set the same for all of them. Then determine your employees' responsibilities. Fill in the first one and add details to the first one. And again, in a job description, just to remind you, let's take a look at this graphic here. This is on a document like this, and there are other pages to this document that explain what is comms, what is production management, what is marketing activities. And it should be explained. And then we also use a tool called ClickUp that serves all of these with checklists that are automated. Fill it in. Add any details of the client's responsibilities. Then do this. This is important. Don't miss this. Schedule your next one-to-one and schedule the first one as soon as possible. If you've been negligent to do a one-on-one connection point, weekly, bi-weekly at first, schedule it now. Like pause today's show, open up a calendar and book it. Even before you have this made, put it on the calendar, and maybe the appointment will force you to create this for your employee. Then train them how to use it. And I got to tell you, I got one right here on the wall. This is the old version, but mine's right here on the wall. And you can see I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 different items here. This is an old one, but literally pull it out, show them this document, and then train them and educate them. Do you know what comms means? Cool. Do you know what production management means and how to do that? Do you know what your other responsibilities are? And do you know what the foundation is? Do you know what our brand promises are? And is that guiding your day? And then schedule the next appointment immediately and then book out one for 2 weeks from now. And say, we're going to check in 2 weeks just to say, is this working for you? Is this a fit for you? Does this match what I expect of you day in and day out? And you need to make sure you're aligning yourself. So as an entrepreneur who's trying to hand off, maybe you're leaving your job, part of the Great Resignation. Maybe you're starting a new project. You've been a business owner before. Maybe you're just trying to take things to the next level and you haven't been utilizing a tool like this. But now you have a visual tool, the priority pyramids, trademarked. You have the priority pyramids ready to go where you can communicate with each of your members, get them aligned, and get this, alignment is not just for your employees. Alignment is also for you. Alignment is also to make sure you're not holding them accountable for things you didn't say or let them know or inform them you were holding them accountable to. You need to make sure you're holding them accountable to the things that you made an agreement on when you hired them. Because as an entrepreneur, as an ADD entrepreneur, you can often get off track and see scope creep. You're allowed to scope creep, but update the priority pyramid. You're allowed to update it with their agreement, of course. Hey, listen, you've been doing this and that for me for the last few quarters. I'd like to add other responsibilities to your plate. Can we update the priority pyramid? And if they say no, that's fine. If the role changes, hey, this role is changing and I need to add this responsibility to the priority pyramid. Are you a fit for that role? When I add that responsibility to that priority pyramid. And it allows you to have difficult conversations around a tool so that it's less emotional, more focused on the tool. It aligns them, but it also aligns you. Was this helpful at all? Was this useful? Listen, if you need any sort of support like this, we're involved in the free Discord group having conversations about this, about crypto, about investments, about small business, about marketing, about personal development, even. Over in the free Discord, you can get that link here, right here. You can get that link in the comments. I don't have that link ready for you, but it is in the comments below. Jump over there, join the Discord. It's free. Let's talk about things like this. Let's share resources and dialogue because you guys are the greatest tool. You guys have, if you think I've got education, I know you do too. And it shouldn't be a one-way street. Join us on the Discord for that conversation. If you just want to swipe our tools directly, become a patron member. I'm going to make these tools my own. I'll give you my job descriptions. I'll give you my priority pyramids, but I'll also give you a blank download that you don't even have to create your own. You just download it, fill it out, send it to your team, and you're good. And you can just get that right here at the Patreon account. Boom, make that available. Or you can purchase them individually. I'll make these individually available on stateofthespark.com. Remember, we're making all of our tools and training from the last 8 years of building our businesses available to you on how we've built partnerships, built good employees, and built a decent team that we can now delegate, and Marissa can go hiking and I can go surfing, and we're doing that. But hey, listen, no matter what you do today, whether you join the Discord, whether you go out and implement this, don't worry so much about that. I want you to remember the mission. And what's that? You know what it is. Igniting lives of explosive significance, starting with your own. Have a great day.